Hello and welcome to the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Kaya, energy healer, psychic channel, and spiritual mentor for women who are ready to ditch the spiritual rulebook, release the pressure and overwhelm, and let go of all that comparison that makes you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. In this podcast, I'm going to share bits of my journey with you, as well as my wisdom and knowledge to show you that spirituality gets to be something that works for you and not something that you work for. Now let's dive into today's episode. If you have been in the personal development space for any amount of time, you've probably heard the idea of embodying your next level self, embodying your higher self, up leveling to your higher self, like any kind of verbiage like that. It's going around. I use that kind of language myself too. I'm not going to create this episode to be anything against it, but what I really want to offer today is a reframe, a new perspective, or maybe not a new perspective to you, but a reminder of what exactly it means to be embodying your higher self. So, higher self and next level self, to me, are pretty much interchangeable. Obviously, next level self implies that it's a level and then there's one after that and whatever. Higher self to me is more of your true self, your soul, that kind of thing. The highest embodiment that you're here to be living right now. So for the sake of this episode, I'm not going to always be referencing both. I'm just going to say higher self. But you can, interchange them as you like. So what I really want to offer here is that with all this messaging going around regarding, your higher self and the embodiment of her, something that I see happen all the time in this for the person receiving the message, so the person receiving the content they see online or whatever it is that they often get in their heads that your higher self is someone outside of you. It's someone that is not you. It's someone that maybe you've put up on a pedestal, someone that is above where you are now. Like higher self obviously implies that. Also knowing that your higher self is yourself without the ego, it obviously creates a sense of well, myself with the ego isn't as good. My higher self is better. And there's a lot of these beliefs that can be built around this. And what I really want to offer in this episode is a shift in perspective around who your higher self is. And that it's actually not something that is outside of you. So when we're, using the language of embodying your higher self, this doesn't mean to embody someone that isn't you. And I think that's where sometimes people can really get confused, is they'll often be met with the prompts of embodying your next level self. What would your higher self do right now if she was already doing XYZ that you're desiring? And then it becomes this game of well, obviously, the version of me who's achieving this goal that I'd like to achieve is different from who I am now. Otherwise, I would already have it. Therefore, I have to be someone different. I have to change all kinds of things about myself in order to embody this version. When in reality, what we often don't realize is the version of us that has what we desire isn't someone different than who we are. And often it's not even someone that different from the way we're living our life now. So what I mean by that is often we think for example, I know I use a lot of business examples just because that's the world that I'm in. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs listen to my podcast as well. But in the online business space, then we can often think, okay, I want to make these 10K months, right? That's always the first goal for everyone. They want to make 10K months, 6-figure a year, whatever. And awesome. That's what you're striving for. Amazing. So in that, what I see happen is a lot of people will be met with that question with the version of me who is like making $10,000 per month in my online business, how is she showing up? And often we are met with like the idea that it's someone completely different from who we are now. We're like, wow, if I was making $10,000, like I would be like sipping espresso out of my $800 machine that like I bought, and like I would have like, a chef come in and prepare meals for me and my family, and my cleaners coming. I'm working like 1 hour a day. Like it's like this big vision, right? Like awesome if that's what we desire, like amazing. But often it's not actually who we would be if we had that desire. So I know this was so true for me, where I was like starting my online business, and at that point I was just like, I just want to make a couple of $1,000s. Like if I was working online, like I would feel so badass. Like it was this whole thing, and I created this like, vision that my life would be so drastically different, when in reality it didn't change that much. And sometimes when we create this idea that the version of us who has everything we desire is so different from who we are now, then it starts to feel like that person, like that version is so far away. Because then we start to evaluate what we're currently doing in our life and what we currently don't have, which creates like lack and scarcity energy into our lives. Like, well, I don't have that $800 espresso machine. I don't have someone coming to clean my house. I don't have a personal chef making my meals. Like, and then we start to think like, well, yeah, how am I supposed to embody that higher self, that next level version of myself, if I don't actually have any of those things? And then it becomes this cycle of like, of lack, right? Of I don't have that, so I can't have this, and I can't have that, and I can't be this, and like whatever. And the perspective that I really want to offer to you for this episode is like, what if you imagined that embodying your next level self isn't really about what you do? Because I think that's where a lot of people get in their heads, is like they think it's doing different things. And in reality, yes, obviously you would be showing up a little bit differently, and it is about taking action. But a lot of the work actually comes from who you are being and the energy that you're doing things in. So embodying your next level self maybe isn't about making an espresso in your $800 machine in the morning, but pretending like the coffee that you made in your drip machine or whatever is made from that $800 machine, and savoring it like it is. And beyond that, it's also realizing that like not everything in your life has to change for you to be a match for what you desire. You don't have to overhaul everything. Sometimes it's a micro shift. And I think sometimes we get in our heads that like everything's going to change once I have this thing. And then we're severely disappointed when we get there and it isn't like that. So when we start to close that gap and think, what if that version of me who has what I desire right now is just living the day like I am now? What if I'm already doing the things that my higher self would be doing? I'm just shifting the energy that I'm doing them in. Right? And that was really like a game changer for me when I realized like, the version of me who has everything I desire is literally doing pretty much the same thing I'm already doing every day. I'm already putting my son down for a nap. I'm having my favorite drink in the morning. I'm eating probably similar foods. Like it's not a complete overhaul. It's just small tweaks and tweaks in the energy. So that is a perspective I want to offer to you if you're feeling like your higher self, your next level self is something that's just so far away, so unattainable. It's not. It's here now, and you have access to energy. You have access to shift your beliefs around what you believe is possible for yourself and who you believe yourself to be and who you believe your higher self to be. There is not a huge gap. You're already closing in on it, and it's all possible for you now.